splatters on screen revealing a series of images, a woman playing violin, then in a bright pink costume, then in a blind skier penny atop a mountain. The paint drip splatters revealing text in print and braille. Unsightly Opinions.
Hi, welcome to Unsightly Opinions. My name's Tamara. Today is a very exciting day because it's time. We're reviewing the Omni-Sense cane tip. This has been a much requested review ever since I did my in-depth Ambutech cane tip review. Everybody wants to know what's up with the Omni-Sense cane tip. So I have picked one up today. We're going to be talking about some of its general features, trying it out on several different types of terrain, giving you some honest feedback on what I think its strengths and drawbacks are, and hopefully showing you a little bit of what this cane tip can do. As always, this video is going to be separated into chapters, so check the description down below if you want to jump to a specific section. Without further ado, let's dive in. The Omni-Sense cane tip, I believe, is the newest cane tip to hit the market for the blind and visually impaired, and is developed by a company called Omnia, which is an Australian company, but also has offices in the US. This is a rather unusual looking cane tip because it is fairly wide, and I would describe it most like one of those wooden duck toys that you had that has giant wheels, a little tail, and kind of rolled around and you pulled it on a string. That's kind of the best description I can give for the shape. It's got 2 wheels on each side, which almost feels like 4 wheels because the wheel itself has this offset appearance with 2 wheels rolling front and back and some offset rollers, which I would almost describe as like rolling beads that help it move laterally left and right. And it has one of those on either side of a plastic base with a little bit of a diagonal plastic nub that helps you rest it when it's sitting flat. It is available in hook and slide-on style tips. I have the hook style here, and it touts 360-degree movement with your cane. So in this case, I would describe it as having forward and backwards movement and lateral or side-to-side movement. It is 93 grams, which is a little bit heavier if you're comparing it to the standard rolling marshmallow tip, which comes in at about 40 grams. It's supposed to give better auditory feedback, better sensory feedback, better indications of changes in terrain. It's supposed to last longer than conventional cane tip. It is made out of a polymer construction. It is non-corrosive, washable, and dishwasher safe, and has a 12-month warranty for wear. If you're curious about the cost for this little doodad, where you live is definitely going to dictate how much it costs for you. If you live in the US, it's going to run you about $49. If you, like me, live in Canada, it's going to run you a whole lot more. When I initially picked up this tip, I could not find a Canadian supplier selling it, so I had to pay $49 US, which roughly translates to $68 Canadian, plus another $23 to ship it to me US. So all in all, it ended up being just under $100 Canadian for this cane tip, or $78 American. Now I know it is available at one Canadian retailer, but it's $102. So this little cane tip, if you live where I live, is going to cost you a lot of money. It has some really bold claims. I want to put them to the test. I'm really hoping it lives up to the expectation, so let's take it out into the real world, give it a shot, try it out, and see if this is worth the hype. We are now outside with the Omni-Sense. One of the first things that I really like about this cane is the little plastic piece in the center helps keep it level so it doesn't roll out from you when it's completely vertical, but the moment you lean it forward, it does roll out. So let's see how this actually feels. Oh, this is strange. It glides nicely. It's very loud. It's very different feeling from any other cane tip I've ever used. And so far, I would say it's the smoothest cane tip I've used, but the worst in terms of how much information I'm actually getting from my cane on the concrete. It's okay. It feels very heavy to push, to be honest. Compared to my marshmallow roller tip, it does feel a lot heavier to use in a sweeping motion. If I was just running straight ahead, I feel like it would be a lot easier. Yeah, this feels really nice and smooth, but the actual sweeping is pretty tough. Just so we have an active comparison, I have popped my marshmallow tip back onto my cane so I can be a little more objective when I'm assessing the Omni-Sense. So let's just take a few steps here. I find the lateral rotation to be easier with this cane, but maybe I'm putting a little more force through the cane in a forward momentum, and I feel the sidewalk a lot more in terms of the vibration of the sidewalk through this tip than with the Omni-Sense. So they are distinctly different feelings This feels like a very nylon tip to me, because it is, and the Omni-Sense does feel like a more plastic sensation, because I do believe it is a molded plastic tip. So I'm gonna just pop the Omni-Sense back on right now, and then I can do another comparison. I feel that my momentum stops significantly when I'm shorelining, so I have a lot harder time pulling it out of something like the edge of grass, which is one of my favorite techniques to help me stay straight. So if you don't do a lot of shorelining, it might not be a problem for you, but it is definitely something that I am noticing, that my speed is a lot slower because I am constantly stopping every time I hit the edge of the sidewalk. Anyways, let's take it on to a couple of different surfaces and see what we think. All right, we're on some gravel now. This does not roll well over gravel. While it's not technically getting stuck, it's not rolling. I am using all of my strength. I'm not using my wrist at all because I wouldn't have the wrist strength to use my cane in a proper sweep on gravel. Yeah, I'm finding this quite exhausting. There's something that I've really noticed. Because it has the plastic bevel to help it stay and not roll out when it's vertical, you have to be sure which direction you've got it before you start moving out with your cane, because if it's on the wrong side, it won't roll. It'll just drag because of the little plastic piece that's in the center. So it has to have that plastic piece on the top side of the cane. So let's test it out on some grass now and see what we feel. I don't feel like I'm moving very quickly, and I don't feel like I'm getting good translation from the roller up the cane into my hand, especially on grass. I'm not getting good feedback about the level of terrain. It just feels very uneven under my cane, and it is actually getting stuck, and it's very difficult to sweep back and forth over the grass. My hand is already completely exhausted, and it's only been a few steps. While this cane tip, I am sure, is designed for constant contact users, I am going to attempt a little bit of 2-point touch, because that would be my typical transition in rough areas with my marshmallow tip. So we'll see how it feels with 2-point touch and see if it's light enough to use in these kinds of very specific situations. I don't feel that it's super heavy. It may be slightly lighter than my marshmallow tip, but I wouldn't describe it as the lightest cane tip. It's definitely much heavier than something like a pencil tip or even a metal glide tip, and doesn't seem to give a lot of good feedback when I am actually tapping on both sides auditorily or sensation-wise traveling through the cane up into my hand. I wanted to find some sand to test this in, but we haven't been able to find any yet. So what we did find is this baseball diamond, which has some really fine gravel in it. So we're gonna test out this cane on that surface. With my typical sweep, it doesn't feel great. It's really, I almost feel like I have to get 2 hands involved to sweep. If I twist my wrist a little bit out and in, it seems to be maybe rolling a little bit better. I want to head over to some pavement now and see if that makes a difference when you're on smoother terrain. So we're back on sidewalk now, and I want to try that twisty wrist motion. It does seem to work a little better in terms of keeping your momentum, especially if you're shorelining. But aside from the auditory cue when I'm hitting the grass, the tactile sensation is much duller than I would say with other tips. So if that's something that's really important to you, bear that in mind. This is a very strange sensation to twist your wrist like this to use the cane, but I do believe that this is working better. It is quite a squeaky cane, so I'm gonna go back to the straight wrist. You can hear how squeaky it is. And then I do get stuck when I'm shorelining a lot more, but if I twist, it does seem to work a little bit better. Well, let's go inside and talk about my final thoughts on the Omni-Sense cane tip. Now that we've been out and about with the Omni-Sense cane tip, I want to give you my final thoughts. I do like how wide the cane tip is. It does give you a lot of stability when you're rolling back and forth or when you're moving. It does not get caught very easily compared to other types of cane tips, and I really like the plastic stand, which prevents it from rolling away on you when you're standing it up against a wall or when you're just hanging on to it close to your body. I don't know that I would agree that it gives you 360 degrees of motion, because it'll definitely give you really good rotation forward and backwards, just like stationary wheels on a cart, but the lateral movement isn't quite as seamless as the forward motion. So moving on diagonals can be a little bit tricky, and the cane tip wants to turn on you. I did find it challenging knowing when I had the plastic nub facing up versus facing down, and sometimes the cane tip would rotate on my cane, so I'd be constantly twisting it to adjust the orientation so that I could have the flat angle of my cane where I wanted it. I did find that it did give a lot of auditory feedback. It is a very loud cane tip, but personally, I found the sound to be very aggressive and high-pitched compared to some other cane tips, and in some situations, I may not want that kind of auditory feedback if I want to move through an environment quietly. With my Marshmallow, I am quieter indoors and louder outdoors, and I like that because I want more auditory feedback outdoors. But that might be different for different people. So if you want a lot of auditory sound all the time, this is going to give you that. If you are a constant contact user who doesn't sweep, I think this is going to be an awesome cane tip for you. It really rolls well over all kinds of obstacles in a forward and backward direction. But I do find if you are going to be doing a sweeping motion or 2-point touch, you'd probably want to check out a slightly different cane tip, maybe something that's lighter, because it is going to wear out your wrist. You do feel that weight compared to a Marshmallow cane tip when you start sweeping. Those extra 40+ grams add up very quickly when it's at the end of a 50-60 inch cane. I do think it handled fine gravel slightly better than my Marshmallow would, so maybe this cane tip is something that you might want in specific circumstances, but I definitely didn't feel like it was giving me the best tactile feedback compared to what I am used to. Now, as always, this is my bias because I use a rolling Marshmallow tip all the time. It's a standard for a lot of people for a reason, so it's going to take a lot to really change my mind and make me want to pick up a new cane tip, especially one that cost me $100 to get to my house. I definitely feel that I do have some bias towards this because it is so vastly different. It feels so different from any other cane tip. Maybe I would need a little more time with this cane tip to fully embrace it and love how it felt and understand what I was feeling. But because I'm used to other cane tips and this is so different, it definitely has a learning curve attached to it. It's going to take a lot for me to swap from my regular old Marshmallow tip to something new because, again, I'm used to it. It's going to have to be pretty spectacular for me to change my old hardened ways. Do I think this is worth picking up? Yes and no. I think if you really want a cane tip that's going to be loud everywhere you go, this is a great tip. If you are just using it for ID purposes, you want some general feedback about what's in front of you, but you're not sweeping, again, I think this is going to be a fabulous tip. I think this is a good tip for beginners, but I do also want to caveat that statement by saying that I think with children, because there is that additional weight on the cane tip, it is going to be harder for them to roll it because it does take more force to get it back and forth. So I'm going to leave it with you. Have you tried the Omni-Sense cane tip? What was your experience? What did you love? What did you hate? What were your thoughts? Because I think there are many people out there who really want to give it a go. The more thoughts, the more perspectives that we can get, the better, because it's only going to make the next version of this product even better. If you're into cane content, stay tuned because there will be more cane videos coming out very, very soon. I have a full set of Ambutech canes on the way for us to review. As always, if you like content like this, don't forget to subscribe, engage down below or on any of my other social media accounts. Hit that like button, share it around, leave your thoughts, but that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.